Nigeria is divided into numerous ethnic groups, of which the Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba are the largest and major ethnic groups. The three major ethnic groups were governed by the indigenous ethnic ruler, where the rule was either a centralized or non-centralized system of government under Obas for the Yorubas, Obi for the Igbos, and Emirs for the Hausa. After Nigeria's independence in 1960, the bulk of the political leaders were from the three major ethnic groups. But because of the imbalance in educational aspects caused by the creation of regions during the colonial era, the three major groups suspected one another and were conscious of disallowing one tribe to dominate the other, thus each protecting its ethnic group. Now we shall look at the outcome of the mutual domination consciousness of the group and how it followed the secessionist idea of the Igbos and the outcome of the Biafra war on the Igbos and the rest of Nigeria. The Biafra War can also be referred to as the Nigerian Civil War, which was fought between the government of Nigeria, with General Yakubu Gowon as the president, and the secessionist state of Biafra, led by General Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, from 6 July 1967 to 15 January 1970. It lasted for 30 months. Biafra represented nationalist aspirations of the Igbo people, whose leadership felt they could no longer coexist with the northern-dominated federal government. The conflict resulted from political, economic, ethnic, cultural, and religious tensions which preceded Britain's former decolonization of Nigeria. The immediate cause of the war in 1966 included ethno-religious riots in northern Nigeria, a military coup, a counter-coup, and persecution of Igbos living in northern Nigeria. Control over lucrative production in the Niger Delta also played a vital role. Before the outbreak of the Biafran Civil War, the feeling of collective victimization by the Igbo community was cultivated in the early years of Nigeria's political development. Several years before Nigeria's independence in 1960, a prominent Igbo leader and renowned nationalist Nnamdi Azikiwe accused the British colonialists of masterminding acts of systematic discrimination against the Igbo. In 1945, the animosities that have been growing between the Igbo and the other ethnic communities erupted in violence. The October 1945 riot in Jos, where people were killed, several others injured, and considerable number of properties were destroyed. Thus, this constitutes the first major inter-ethnic violence involving the Igbo. Thus, it can be said that the Jos riot provided a pattern for the subsequent attacks against the Igbo in various parts of Nigeria, such as the Kano attack of 1953. In May 29, 1966, a target attack was launched against the Igbo population, mainly in northern Nigeria, occurring after the aftermath of the January 1966 coup, which claimed the life of prominent northern leaders like Tafawa Balewa and Ahmadu Bello, who were Prime Minister and Premier respectively, and to show the northerners' dissatisfaction against the unification decree and 29th July 1966 counter-coup. These attacks were now widely known as the 1966 Igbo pogrom. The attack, which initially began as a peaceful demonstration by the students of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, against the unification decree by the military government, escalated into violent action against Igbo. At the end of the attack, over 3,000 Igbos were reported to have been killed or wounded. Exactly 2 months after the May killing, a massacre of Igbo officers and men in the Nigerian armed forces took place, in which 27 Igbo officers were killed, 12 non-Igbo officers, 154 men of other ranks from Eastern region had been killed. Again, 2 months after the July massacre, a more destructive pogrom ensued in the north and other parts of the north, where northern soldiers were stationed. Various accounts recorded that over 50,000 Igbos were killed between 29 September and the end of November 1966. The above killings led to the mass repatriation of about 2 million people, many of whom were in destitute condition, to the eastern region. To the Igbo region particularly, 29 September 1966 was considered the worst day because of massacres. It was called Black Thursday. The 1966 pogrom and the immense population displacement it caused were therefore factors that contributed to the development of separatist feeling that eventuated in the declaration of Biafra secession. The deluge of refugees in eastern Nigeria created a difficult situation. Extensive negation took place between General Gowon representing Nigeria and General Ojukwu representing the eastern Nigeria, which brought about the signing of the Aburi Accord, which was signed at Aburi in Ghana. The Aburi Accord was reached in 1967 after a meeting attended by delegates of the both federal government of Nigeria and eastern delegates led by General Ojukwu. The meeting was billed to be the last change to prevent a war. Other individuals that attended the Aburi Accord was Colonel Mobolaji Johnson and Hadan Katsina, to mention a few. The Aburi Accord stated that a loser Nigerian federation will be implemented, but General Gowon did not announce the agreed accord, but instead he declared the division of Nigeria into 12 more states, deliberately breaking the eastern region into 3 parts: Southeastern States, River States, and East Central States, making it difficult for the Igbos to break away, since breaking away will mean the East Central States will lose control over most of the petroleum located in the other 2 areas. With the declaration of General Yakubu Gowon, the accord broke down, thus it led to the outbreak of Nigerian civil war. As a reaction to the declaration of Gowon, Ojukwu declared the independence of Biafra on 30th of May 1967 as the Republic of Biafra. Immediately after the declaration of Biafra, the Nigerian government placed an embargo on all land, air, and sea shipping to and from Biafra, and by June, the embargo was extended to all supply. This put Biafra in a disadvantaged position. As the war began, Britain sided with Nigeria, thus supporting her with arms and ammunition, while France took sides with the Biafra government with arms, even though the allegation was strongly denied by France, although only a few countries recognized Biafra as a country. The Nigerian government launched a police attack to retake the secessionist region. The divisions were led by mostly northern officers. After facing strong resistance from the Biafra troop, shortly after extending its blockade to include oil, the Nigerian government launched a police action to retake the secessionist territory. The war began in the early hours of 6 July 1967, when Nigerian federal troops advanced in 2 columns into Biafra. The Biafra strategy had succeeded. The federal government had started the war, and the East was defending itself. The Nigerian army offensive was through the north of Biafra, led by Colonel Muhammad Shua, and the local military units were formed as the 1st Infantry Division. The division was led mostly by northern officers. After facing unexpectedly fierce resistance and high casualties, the right-hand Nigerian column advanced on the town of Nsukka, which fell on 14th July, while the left-hand column made for Garkem, which was captured on 12th July. The Biafrans responded with an offensive on their own when, on 9th of August, the Biafran forces moved to the west side into the mid-western region of Nigeria, which is across the Niger River, passing through Benin City, until they were stopped at Ore in Ondo State, just over the state boundary on 21st of August, just 130 miles east of the Nigerian capital of Lagos. The Biafran attack was led by Lieutenant Colonel Banjo, a Yoruba, with the Biafran rank of brigadier. The attack met little resistance and the Midwest was easily taken over. This was due to the pre-secession arrangement that all soldiers should return to their regions to stop the spate of killings in which Igbo soldiers had been major victims. The Nigerian soldiers who were supposed to defend the Midwest states were mostly Midwest Igbo, and while some were in touch with their eastern counterparts, others resisted. General Gowon responded by asking Colonel Murtala Muhammad, who later became the head of state in 1975, to form another division, the 2nd Infantry Division, to expel the Biafrans from the Midwest, as well as to defend the west side and attack Biafra from the west as well. At the same time, Gowon declared total war and announced the federal government would mobilize the entire population of Nigeria for the war effort. From the summer of 1967 to the spring of 1969, the Federal Army grew from a force of 7,000 to a force of 200,000 men organized in 3 divisions. Biafra began the war with only 240 soldiers at Enugu, which grew to 2 battalions by August 1967, which soon were expanded into 2 brigades, the 51st and 52nd, which became the core of the Biafran army. By 1969, the Biafrans were to field 90,000 formed into 5 undermanned divisions, together with a number of independent units. As Nigerian forces retook the Midwest, the Biafran military administrator declared the Republic of Benin on 19 September, though it ceased to exist next day. The present country of Benin, west of Nigeria, was still named Dahomey at that time. Although Benin City was retaken by the Nigerians on 22nd of September, the Biafrans succeeded in the primary objective by tying down as many Nigerian federal troops as they could. General Gowon also launched an offensive into Biafra South from the Niger Delta to the riverine area, using the bulk of the Lagos Garrison Command under Colonel Benjamin Adekunle, called the Black Scorpion, to form the 3rd Infantry Division, which was later renamed as the 3rd Marine Commando. As war continued, the Nigerian army recruited amongst a wider area, including the Yoruba, Isekiri, Urhobo, Edo, Ijaw, etc. In a bid to depend on the unity of Nigeria once more, the command was divided into 2 brigades with 3 battalions each. 1st Brigade advanced on the axis Ogudu, Ogunga, Nsukka Road, while 2nd Brigade advanced on axis Gakem Obudu, Ogoja Road. By 10th July 1967, it had conquered all its assigned territories. By 12th July, the 2nd Brigade had captured Gakem, Ogudu, Ogoja. By 12th July, the 2nd Brigade had captured Gakem, Ogudu, and Ogoja. To assist Nigeria, Egypt sent 6 Ilyushin 1128 bombers flown by Egyptian air crews. The habit of the Egyptians to bomb Red Cross hospitals, together with schools and marketplaces, did much to earn Biafra's international sympathy. Enugu became the hub of secession and rebellion, and the Nigerian government believed that once Enugu was captured, the drive for secession would end. The plans to conquer Enugu began on 12 September 1967, and by 4th October 1967, the Nigerian army had captured Enugu. Nigerian soldiers under Murtala Mohammed carried out a mass killing of 700 civilians when they captured Asaba on the River Niger. The Nigerians were repulsed 3 times as they attempted to cross the River Niger during October, resulting in the loss of thousands of troops, dozens of tanks and equipment. The first attempt by the 2nd Infantry Division on 12 October to cross the Niger from the town of Asaba to the Biafran city of Onitsha cost the Nigerian Federal Army over 5,000 soldiers killed, wounded, captured, or missing. Operation Tiger Claw was a military conflict between Nigeria and the military forces. On 17 October 1967, Nigerians invaded Calabar, led by the Black Scorpion, Benjamin Adekunle, while the Biafrans were led by Colonel Ugbu Ogi, who was responsible for controlling the area between Calabar and Opobo, and Lane Garrison, a foreign mercenary. The Biafrans came under immediate fire from the water and the air. For the next 2 days, Biafran stations and military supplies were bombarded by the Nigerian Air Force. That same day, Lane Garrison reached Calabar, but came under immediate fire by federal troops. By 20th October, Garrison's forces withdrew from the battle, while Colonel Ogi officially surrendered to General Adekunle. On 19th May 1968, Port Harcourt was captured. With the capture of Enugu, Bonny, Calabar, and Port Harcourt, the outside world was left in no doubt of the federal supremacy in the war. Biafran propaganda always blamed military defeats on saboteurs within the ranks of the Biafran officer, and both officer and the other ranks were encouraged to denounce suspected saboteurs. Throughout the war, Biafran officers were far more likely to be executed by their own side than by the Federal Army, as Ojukwu conducted purges and had officers who were merely accused of being saboteurs taken out and shot. Ojukwu did not trust the majority of the former Federal Igbo officers who had rallied to Biafra and saw them as potential rivals, thus leading to murderous purges that led to most of them being executed. Furthermore, Ojukwu needed scapegoats for Biafra's defeat, and death was the usual punishment for a Biafran officer who lost a battle. Out of a fear of a coup, Ojukwu created several units such as the S Brigade, commanded by himself, and the 4th Commando Brigade, commanded by a German mercenary, Rolf Steiner, that existed outside of the regular chain of command. Barura wrote that Ojukwu's leadership, especially his frequent execution of his own officers, had a disastrous impact on the morale of the Biafran officer corps. The execution of officers also made it difficult for the Biafran officers to acquire the necessary experience to conduct military operations successfully. As Barua noted, the Biafran army lacked both the continuity and cohesion to learn from the war. The Nigerian army proceeded into Nsukka. It was eventually captured on 14th January. The Nigerian army proceeded into Nsukka. It was eventually captured on 14th July. Nigeria troop and marine captured Bonny Island in the Niger Delta, thereby controlling shell facilities. The war attracted international sympathies from countries like Britain, France, United States of America, Soviet Union, China, Israel, Egypt, Canada, and other countries. The Biafra War was extremely costly for the Igbo. The war was essentially fought in the Biafra territory, mainly in Igbo land, with enormous wanton destruction of lives and properties and massive displacement of people. Because of the way the war was fought and conducted, many Igbos perceived the war as continuation of the mass killing and as the war of ethnic survival, and widespread fear of genocide had been identified as one of the factors that provided the motivation for the prolongation of the war. The activities of the Nigerian soldiers during the war and their disregard for restraints of war conventions are seen as indications of deep hatred for the Igbos. The Nigerian soldiers were accused of concentrating the attack on civilian targets. The Biafran government made a case of civilian massacres in cities and towns like Aba, Onitsha, Calabar, Uyo, Oji River, Okigwe, and Asaba. In response to this petition, the Nigerian government invited the International Observer Team made up of representatives from Canada, Poland, Sweden, the United Kingdom, African Union, and the United Nations to investigate the Biafra charges of genocide against them. They, however, did not find them guilty of acts of genocide against the Igbos or any other tribe of the Federation. The Asaba killing was estimated that more than 700 men and boys were killed by Nigerian soldiers during the massacre. In addition to concentrated attacks on civilian targets, the Nigerian soldiers were accused of indiscriminate destruction of their targets, rape and dehumanization of women, and maltreatment of war prisoners. There was also mass starvation and death following the closure of Biafra by the Nigerian troops between 1968 and 1969. With the dislocation caused by the 1966 pogrom and the war, the Igbo lost their food producing area. The Igbo situation worsened by the Nigerian wartime policy, which held that starvation is a legitimate instrument of warfare. The policy ensured that foreign aid, particularly food donations, was prevented from reaching Biafra, which caused the shortage of food, hunger, malnutrition, disease, and death of millions of people. The war ended with Nigeria launching its final offensive, named Operation Tailwind, on 7th January 1970. Thus, the Biafran town of Owerri fell on 9th January and Uli on 11th January. Ojukwu fled into exile by plane to Ivory Coast, leaving his deputy, Philip Effiong, to handle the details of the surrendering to General Yakubu Gowon on the 13th of January 1970. The surrender paper was signed on 14th January 1970 in Lagos. Thus, this brought an end to the civil war and reunification of the secession. Fighting ended a few days later, with the Nigerian forces advancing to the remaining Biafran-held territories, which was met with little resistance. After the war, Gowon said, "The tragic chapter of violence is just ended. We are at the dawn of national reconciliation. Once again, we have an opportunity to build a new nation. My dear compatriots, we must pay homage to the fallen, to the heroes who have made the supreme sacrifice that we may be able to build a nation great in justice, fair trade, and industry." In the end of the war, the strategy of the 3 R's of reconstruction, reconciliation, and rehabilitation was introduced to help in the post-war era to integrate the Igbo into the society conveniently without regrets of the past. But several years later, the Igbos are still complaining of marginalization. They are still clamoring for the cause of an independence. Despite several demonstrations, riots, and fights, Nigeria has since remained a single unified country. That's it for today. Do you think a breakup along ethnic lines is what Nigeria needs to move forward? Or will a proper reconstructing of the Federation put a permanent solution to the numerous political and economic instabilities Nigeria is currently experiencing after the Civil War? Let us hear your thoughts in the comment section. Also, do not forget to subscribe, like, and share.